It's about going backwards in order to go forward. Sometimes we find ourselves in a place that we never really imagined for ourselves. God had a story. He has a will. He has this story, the story, and He's inviting you today to be part of that story, to play your role in that story. Rather than fitting you into my little story, I want to see what my role is in your great story. Let your life be about His agenda, His values. It'll get clearer and clearer as we go. You're not an accident, and you're not a mistake. And bring about real change. So, if you stick with me, okay, you're going to get what you want out of today and more. But I'm going to challenge you. And it's okay for us to disagree. What I don't want you to do is to check out on me. We may not see exactly the same on some things. That's okay. Follow me along. Don't check out on me. Because I want you to get some real tangible tools that will help you to make change, okay? So we're going to go through a process. We're going to divide up our day into 4 sections. And with each section, there's an activity and a little break that goes along the workbook, and we'll guide you through it. The first part is examining our story. Lost. Many people have reached out to me and said they just feel very lost. Lost in life, without direction, without purpose. You're just wandering through year after year, feeling lost. Now here, let me be honest. Your friend here is directionally challenged, okay? It's just part of who I am. So I'm going to start with a story of when I was 6 years old. When I was 6 years old, we had moved into a new city, and we moved in the middle of the school year, so it was kind of wintry. And my dad walked me to the bus stop that wintry, I think it was January, in a new town, and your directionally challenged friend was instructed, okay, now follow this little girl, she will lead you back home after you get off the bus, because my mom had 2 other little kids and she couldn't come out to meet me at the bus. So I said, okay, Dad, no problem, I'll follow her home. And then we get off the bus in the afternoon, and she said, okay, we got to go down this hill. And I'm looking at the hill, and I don't remember the hill from the morning. And I said, no, that's not the way home. And she said, no, this is the way home. I said, no, it's not the way home. I'm going to go this way. And so I went one way. She just said, okay, went her way, and left me wandering for a couple hours. And I was crying. I was wandering a couple streets over. It was kind of 3 streets that made up our neighborhood. So I was just on like 1 street over, wandering down and up in the street thinking, okay, is that my house? No, it doesn't. Couldn't find my house till a teenager found me crying on the curb. And she said, oh, where do you live? I said, I don't know. I'm lost. And this girl, bless her, took me door to door, street to street until we found my house. And my mother, who was frantic at this point, was like, it's been 3 hours. Where have you been? I'm lost. I was lost. And sometimes that happens in our life. Sometimes we're not that far off. We're on the wrong street. Sometimes we find ourselves in a place that we never really imagined for ourselves. We may not be that far off. We just might be a street over. Sometimes we're in the wrong story altogether. I was on the wrong block. Sometimes we're in the wrong story. The truth is, if we're in the wrong story, it's because we were born to be wild. Not lost, not stuck, not mediocre. We were born to be wild. But are we part of the right story? Are we asking God, what is this story that I'm in? God is wild, and He's inviting you today into a wild relationship with Him to live untamable lives. The legacy we're called to be part of is part of His story, not our own. But I'm so concerned with the next chapter. Is so-and-so in my next chapter? Is so-and-so? Is it going to look like this? I'm so concerned with mine. Is it my job, my purpose, my family? And we need to stop trying to fit God into our story. We need to kind of say, yeah, God, I'm interested in my story, and I know you are too, but I'm more interested in my part in your story. What does that look like? His story, He's been about from the beginning of creation. God had a story. He has a will. He has this story, the story, and he's inviting you today to be part of that story, to play your role in that story. So the question is, what if I don't know my role in the story? Where do I fit? The first step is to reverse the equation. Kind of look at the questions that you ask. My problems, my issues, trying to fit God into my story. But God, I want you to change that. Rather than fitting you into my little story, I want to see what my role is in your great story. Let your life be about his agenda, his values. It'll get clearer and clearer as we go. Your life has purpose. You have a destiny. You're not an accident, and you're not a mistake, and you're not defective. You'll find that out too. God's not surprised by you. When we know that he has a story, it takes a lot of pressure off of our backs. What if I make the wrong decision here? What if I marry the wrong person? What if I move to the wrong city? What if I? If God's in the equation, it's not the pressure on your back anymore. We let him lead. We invite him into our lives and find our place in his story. Most of the pressure comes from the limitations that society's placed on us. You go to school, you get a degree, you get married, you have children, and check the box, check the box, check the box, check the box until you're 40 years down the line. Until you wake up in the same thing over and over, questioning your purpose. Why am I here? What is it that you want of me? The problem is I don't know my role in the story. In the very first pages of the Bible, Genesis 1:26, God is saying something very clear, and if we understand it, we'll start to understand where we fit in this story. Then God said, "Let us make man in our image." Is God wild or what? Not out of control wild. When I say you were born to be wild, it's not my finances are out of control, my house is out of, my kids are out of control, my business is out. Not that kind of wild. Limitless, not shrinking back into mere existence kind of wild. The wild that will blow your mind when you understand the purpose he has for each and every one of you. It's not an accident that you're here. So, how do we do that? How do we find what that looks like? We get into God's story. We allow him to come in and change in us the questions that we've been asking. God created us in his image, and he said, let us make them in our image. Created male and female in his image. The God that created this immense cosmos, the galaxies, and yet the details in every leaf that we see, every flower petal. There's no detail of your personality that goes unthought of. He wasn't doing it without thought and purpose. He didn't make you to be tame and normal and Western and average, to have a little insignificant life. No. If that was the case, that would be an awfully small God. No, he's asking today, do you even know who I am? How big I am? When I made you to be like me. I stamped some of me into you. That thing that sparks you inside of you every once in a while, that's God. That thing that screams out, I just don't want to live with just a bunch of experiences and stuff and things that leave me empty. That's God inside of you, directing you. I want my life to count for something. That's why you're here. That's the image of God inside of us. A full God, a to the full God, an overflowing God. We were ignited by the very breath of God. Genesis 2:7. The Lord made man scraping the dirt from the earth, and he breathed into his nostrils. And the man became a living being. He's still in the making business, guys. He still wants to breathe new breath of life in you. Stick with me. When you know your part in his story, watch out. It's not a surviving life, it's a thriving life. The truth is, we are not a product of our circumstances, our family, or our upbringing, although we typically tend to think we are. We let those things limit us. But you don't know, I'm fill in the blank. But I'm only from a fill in the blank. No, God is not limited by the limits that you or others have put on you.